If you've been wondering about the Ultra Precision Micron series of dies from Bullet Central, this is the video for you. We're going to look at each of the major players in the lineup, the bushing sizing die, we've got the threaded seating die, and the Arbor seating die. These dies are all about precision, and we're going to demonstrate how they work in this video. Hey guys, Gavin here from UltimateReloader.com. You guys know me, I'm all about precision, whether it be building rifles or loading ammo for extreme precision long range shooting here on the channel. That's really where I come alive. So I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to show you the entire series of Micron dies from Bullet Central. So what we've chosen here, this is 3 different 6GT dies. I'm going to show you what we have here in the box. We've got the bushing sizer. So this is a die where you can remove the expanding mandrel and then your bushing will come out. You can see that there. You want to make sure your writing is right side up as you put that in. This goes right in there. You can get different diameter expanding mandrels. I've got another one over here. Okay, so that's the bushing sizer. Then we've got the threaded seater. And so something that you're going to notice on both of these dies, the ones that are 7/8-14 that are for use in a traditional reloading press, is we've got dual rings here. And the motivation, the primary motivation here was squareness. So a lot of people that load extreme precision rifle ammo will do things like lock the ring on the die, put it in a lathe, turn it true so that the face is perfectly square with the axis of the bore, you know, the chamber essentially there, so that you don't have any tilting of the die as it gets cinched down. Well, the way they've designed these ultra precision die lock rings, they come together and they clamp together in a way that gives you better squareness. And then we've got a split ring here to help preserve our setting as well. So that's the same basic mechanism that we see here on the bushing sizer die. So any of these dies are designed with cartridge specific considerations in mind. So whether it be the spring back that we're going to have for the 6GT that we've got here, or different bullet ogive considerations for the stem here. I'll show you a little bit more about the threaded seater. We've got kind of a 2-piece design here for the thimble. The thimble turns very smoothly, and then we've got this micrometer locking ring that comes up from the bottom to preserve your setting. There's also an etched section here that has the micrometer scale on it. If we take the top off, it's very fine threaded, so it has very good resolution for seating depth, 1/1000th of an inch. We will see the stem inside. Okay, so we can pull that out, and there you can see the stem. The cap's gonna come down, the stem is gonna hit the cap, and that's your seating depth setting. So if you see these dies, if you hold them in your hands, you can tell that there's a lot of attention to detail here. The surface finish is excellent. There's some very fine knurling here, basically going to the next level on quality. And that's the kind of experience that you want if you're loading precision ammo, whether it be for competition or if you're one of those long-range hunters that just wants to make sure that you've got the highest quality components, the highest quality rifle, the highest quality ammunition, and therefore the tightest groups that you can get, and the lowest extreme spreads, of course, as well. Okay, so those are kind of the conventional press dies. Then we've got the Arbor die. So we've got the Arbor, and then we've got the seating stem that goes in the top. And this is also a split design, kind of like the threaded seater, where you've got the micrometer locking ring on the bottom, and then you've got the upper portion, the thimble you would call it on that type of a die, and that's going to adjust the overall height, and that's going to set where this seating stem stops when you're using an Arbor press. So that's a high-level overview of the features and the construction for each of the dies. Next, let's take a look at these dies in action. So let's set up the bushing sizer die. What I've got here is previously fired 6GT cases that have been annealed in the amp annealer, and then I also applied some imperial case sizing wax. The setup of the Micron bushing sizer is going to be pretty much like any other die. What I did to set the height here, I've got these locked together and the cross bolt torqued down so that those won't move around. I just basically bottomed the die out against the shell holder, backed it off about a half turn, and then incrementally cranked it down, checking with the comparator to see when my shoulder had bumped back 1/1000th and a half. Boom. Takes a few tries, but once you've got it set for a particular rifle, you're going to be good to go. So let's see how this die is going to work. Very smooth. And if we're not getting good decapping, you can just take this nut here and then crank your decapping pin up and down independent of the bushing. Okay, so next let's look at the threaded seating die. So I just primed these 10 cases, and we also charged them with 37 grains of H4350. So we're ready for some bullet seating. Let's start with that threaded seater. The first thing we need to do here is to index the turret head, get a spot opened up for us there, and then we're going to screw the die down. Now I've got a loaded round. It's always great to have a dummy round to use as a reference. And what I'm going to do here is just screw the die in until I feel it hit something, and I've got the thimble backed out nicely. And if we hit the shell holder, so be it. Okay, I feel resistance right there. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit, and we're going to put our rings down here. Okay, now what we do want to do is we want to make sure that we see our scale. I'm going to back it off a little bit more so that our scale is visible where we stand in front of the press. Okay, that's good. We need to make sure that the thimble is free spinning here, right? That means that we've hit on the shoulder and we have not hit where the stem contacts the ogive of the bullet. So that's what we're going to do next. Just going to crank it down until it stops right there with a little bit of extra compressive torque on there. I like that. Need to kind of lock everything together. Okay, so that's the dummy round. Okay, so I got our bullets. We're using Berger 105 grain hybrids. This is one of my absolute favorite bullets of all time. We're going to take one of the cases, put it in the press, and go ahead and seat. Okay, so if I'm really particular about seating depth, I'm going to check that now with a comparator or cartridge overall length. If I've got a machined tip like a Hornady A tip and I'm not feeling overly precise, that's going to be plenty good to go cartridge overall length on your dummy to cartridge overall length on your completed round. But if we really want to get precise, we want to know where the ogive of the bullet is relative to the lands. So we're going to use a comparator tool, use our reference, whether that be a bullet comparator reading with a COL gauge of some sort. I like to Loctite bullets into the case by chambering around and waiting 5 minutes. We've got a great video called 3 Ways to Find the Lands that covers all that. So if we need to make an adjustment to our seating depth, we just crack these two and turn the lower portion down or up, and then bring the cap down and clamp them together. The nice thing about this is that we're not going to have any creep in our setting. That setting is absolutely locked in. That is perfect neck tension. I can just feel that bullet glide in there, but it's not doing too much work. Excessive neck tension is something that bothers me. Okay, so those are done. Next, let's take a look at the Arbor Seater. Okay, so for the Arbor seating die setup, this is going to be really straightforward. I've taken the die, I've actually used this previously, but what I did is I took the micrometer lock ring and I lowered that, and then I took the cap and I kind of raised that so that our setting was disrupted, so I can show you how that setup works. We're going to take an original reference round from the last round of precision ammo that we loaded, and we're going to put the Arbor down over that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look underneath and I'm going to crank the cap down until I see a gap form right there. And I'm going to keep kind of going back and forth until I can tell exactly where 0 should be. This is where the cap should be when the Arbor press is at the bottom of its stroke. Now we're going to very carefully bring these together and preserve that setting. If you have a little bit of resistance getting your round out, you can just use a tool to pry that out. Okay, so that's our reference cartridge. Now we've got a charged case here, and we can just put that under the die and then use an Arbor press to seat the round. And again, sometimes this is an ultra precision die. The tolerances are very tight. We don't have a lot of wobbling room, and that's what you want. And as a consequence, sometimes we're going to get a little bit of stickage, which is just goes with the territory when you get into this level of precision. Okay, that one popped out a little bit better. Might also depend on what's going on with that seating stem. Okay. This is oddly satisfying in a way. You know you're getting down to brass tacks when you're seating on an Arbor press. But it also gives you a really good idea of what's happening with your ammo. What's my neck tension like? Is it minimal? Is it excessive? You can actually feel that in the stroke of the handle. Or if you have a tool like the amp press from Annealing Made Perfect, this die is going to work great with that. Okay, so now we have 5 rounds that we've seated with the threaded seater. We have 5 rounds that we've seated with the Arbor Seater die. Okay, so showing the process and setup and loading some rounds is all in good, but let's see how well these Micron dies did. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at bullet runout. This is the row of cartridges that I loaded with the threaded seater die. So we're going to use the Hornady runout tool here and see where we're at. Look at that. Look at that. That's like, as far as I can tell, maybe a 1/4 thousandth either direction. Let's see how consistent that is. Okay, that one's plus or minus 1/1000th. And how about this one? Plus or minus 1/1000th. This is still really good. Plus or minus 1/1000th is going to be great for everything but the absolute most stringent bench rest competitions. So a little bit less than plus or minus 1/1000th there. Boy, for a threaded die, this is really good performance. And plus or minus 1/1000th. That's usually my goal. If I've got a threaded die and it's got a micrometer design, it's ultra precision, this is super, especially considering that we fired these rounds in a factory rifle. I drilled a hole in the full custom 6GT in the neck area for the high pressure testing that we did, so I don't have that to use. The Bergara does great, but it's not a full custom. So any of the runout that's in these cases, in the fired cases, is going to more or less translate to runout in the bullet. So these are the Arbor Seater cartridges here. Wow, plus or minus kind of a 1/2,000th. Let me center that up a little bit so that we can see that a little bit better. Yeah, a little less than 1/1000th there. on either side. Woo, really good. Total movement of 1,000th. That's a half on either side. And the reason I'm saying on either side is, you know, if the bullet is off center, it's going to be high on one side and low on the other, right? So what you really care about is plus or minus value. A little less than 1,000th. Wow, this is really good. Anytime I see results like this, I'm definitely happy because that's a plus or minus a little less than a 1/2,000th. And finally, the last Arbor seated bullet, yeah, just a touch under plus or minus 1,000th of an inch. That is some phenomenal results. So the last part of the process is to fire the ammunition, which is what I did. I took the Bergara Competition 6GT barreled action in the foundation stock, went up to our mid-mountain range, and after trying a couple different bullets, was able to produce this half MOA group. So, half MOA results with the factory rifle, that's awesome, but I'm confident with this type of quality gear and one of my full customs, we're gonna be down there in that single hole, bug hole type of precision. I'm really liking the thoughtfulness and the quality of construction that the team over at Bullet Central puts into these Micron products. It definitely shows in the results that we've seen here. And for a limited time, if you use the UR Micron 15 code, you can save 15% off all Micron dies. Now, have you been using Micron dies for your precision loads? I'd love to hear what kind of experiences you've had. Join me down in the comments section and we'll discuss. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're watching Ultimate Reloader on TV and want to take advantage of free resources, exclusives, and hot deals, just hold your camera phone up to the QR code, tap on the link, fill out the information, boom, you're getting Ultimate Reloader emails. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, we're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, where we've got unrestricted content, and Instagram. Make sure to follow us on all those channels. Ultimate Reloader also has a commercial solutions division serving law enforcement, the military, and the gun industry. We have some unique capabilities, including a comprehensive suite of recoil testing and evaluation capabilities, trigger profiling, and more. Thanks again for watching.